Welcome to the September 29th, 2017 edition of Colorado Inside Out Postgame, a special web exclusive production here on Channel 12. Let's get a quick take on Denver being one of 9 U.S. cities targeted by an immigration enforcement sweep this week. ICE agents arrested 63 people, the third most in the cities targeted. ICE Acting Director Tom Homan stated that since jails and prisons are, quote, shielding criminal aliens, these cities have created a magnet for illegal immigration and more resources will go towards arrests. Patty Calhoun from Westward. I guess with Denver trying to walk this line of being a sanctuary city or not, it was bound to happen that we'd be one of these cities. But are we looking at probably being a target for these kind of sweeps in the months and years to come?
Well, we've been walking that fine line, were we a sanctuary city or not, even though there is still no legal definition of what a sanctuary city is. The announcement of this raid referred to sanctuary jurisdictions. So clearly, according to the feds, Denver has passed the line into sanctuary cities. And sure, who's going to stop them? Maybe the courts, but in the meantime, they are going into the courts, which they have promised they will not do, to go get people who are immigrants who might be testifying, not even going on their own trial, but be witnesses. And so it's having a chilling effect on the justice system in general. But who is going to stop them?
Mike Kraus, the Independence Institute. I guess my question here is this. Well, if the resulting sweep gets 63 hardened criminals off the street, we're not talking about mothers bringing their kids to school here, these were hardened criminals, then is maybe this a good thing?
Well, is it a good thing to catch and deport people who have been convicted of serious crimes? Yes, actually it is a good thing. And I would expect to see more of this depending on the degree of resources that ICE has behind them, how long they could sustain this. One of the things that federal agencies depend on local governments a lot of the times as a manpower multiplier, for lack of a better term, because there's a huge country and most federal agencies have small numbers of employees, so it's very difficult actually. It'd be like the DEA deciding to come in and arrest people for marijuana possession. They don't do that. They kind of they contract that out to cities and states, for lack of a better term. So yes, I would anticipate seeing more of this. And by the way, look, Denver has not just walked a fine line. A lot of people in Denver, including the city council, until Mayor Hancock managed to bring it back a little bit, were putting themselves out there as, yes, we want to be known as a sanctuary city. Well, that's literally a challenge to the president who, remember, campaigned on this very issue that, yes, I will be deporting people convicted of crimes. And so I would anticipate seeing more of this, if to the degree that ICE can sustain it within its own resources.
Eric Sondren, political analyst. I guess my question here is if this is creating kind of a reverse sanctuary city, if the acting director of ICE comes out and says we're going to put our focus and more arrests to the cities who are sanctuary cities, what does it mean for the cities that aren't sanctuary cities? And almost because, but maybe I'm out on a limb here.
I don't know. I think you're thinking deeper than maybe than they're thinking. To Mike and Patty's points, I'd like to know a little bit more about who these 63 people are and what they were convicted of or accused of. Were they hardened criminals where, maybe we can say goodbye to them and let them go back across the border? Or were they people just doing routine business in the courthouse or in other circumstances? Were they witnesses to a crime? I'd like to know more about these 63. I really wrestle with this issue, Dominic. On the one hand, I have zero use for Trump's ICE operation or for Trump's immigration policy. On the other hand, I am dubious, Donald Trump aside, about this whole theory of sanctuary cities, which I take as a fancy word basically for nullification. And last I looked, we fought a civil war 150 some odd years ago over the whole theory of nullification and the idea that states, or in that case states, in this case localities, can basically nullify or opt out of federal law, even no matter how flawed this federal law or policy is.
Penfield Tate, attorney at QTech Rock, also a longtime state lawmaker. Does this put local cities in a tough situation?
Sure it does. One of the concerns, and I want to get to Eric's nullification point in a moment. One of the concerns is in many ways, some, I think, perceive this as a terrorist operation on the part of the federal government, because they're targeting places the president has decided he doesn't like, putting a label after them and going after them. Number one, we don't know who's being arrested and deported, because we've seen in the past that ICE has picked up people and detained them just because of their immigration status, not whether they've committed some other separate crime. We've already seen that, and we've talked about that on the show before with local business owners and others who've been arrested and deported, and the only thing they did wrong was their immigration status wasn't technically by the letter, which, by the way, the president's wife didn't have her immigration status completely 100% in compliance with federal law at the time she came over, and that's been reported also. And so the other burden it puts on local governments is, for many of these communities, when ICE is making these arrests, they're forcing the local governments to detain these people in their facilities. And so these communities are then directly financing the activities they have an issue with. Third, in terms of the nullification, Eric raises an interesting point. We shouldn't allow states just to opt out of federal law willy-nilly. And so this whole issue speaks to the need for Congress to get its act together and do a comprehensive immigration reform. But on the other hand, there's, I think, more than just a moral responsibility. The other piece of nullification is slavery was legal, but that didn't make it right. And so the question becomes, should someone be criminalized just because they didn't file their paperwork and come here in a certain prescribed administrative way when they've committed no other independent crime or offense, but they're working, paying taxes, and supporting a family?
That is all the time we have for Colorado Inside Out post-game this week. Leave us a comment, tell us what you think. For everyone here at cpt12.org, I'm Dominic Dezzutti. Thanks for watching.